everyone, welcome to episode 13 of Otome Shimai.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Vika.
And we are sisters who play Otome games.
This is the second episode in the first installation of our mini-series, Reviews in Twos. We'll be reviewing Otome games that we've played together by discussing them in 2 episodes. The first episode is a spoiler-free overview of our opinions, and the second will be more of a reaction episode with heavy spoilers. This episode is on Color Times Malice, and it is spoiler-heavy.
So heavy.
So heavy. But first, who are we doing this week?
I started Oda Nobunaga Act 2 in Ikemen Sengoku.
Now this is new.
Yeah, this is new. This has only been out for like a month, I think. And things are happening. So many, you've got new characters, you've got drama. One of the things I love about Ike-sen is that there are always multiple things happening.
Yeah, lots of intrigue, lots of things going on.
Yeah, never boring. Never boring.
Well, I will say that I'm doing Ikemen Vampire, and it's definitely not as layered as Ikemen Sengoku, especially since you're doing part 2, and I'm just doing the very beginning of Napoleon Bonaparte's route. So I'm finally getting to the point where he and MC are interacting more. She's starting to peel back the layers to figure out what he's about.
Is he an onion?
I don't know. Maybe he's going to make her cry. Who knows?
Or is he a parfait?
Parfait sounds delicious.
I love parfaits.
I mean, he looks as delicious as a parfait.
He is kind of hot.
I kind of agree. But yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. But I'm waiting for the action to pick it up a little bit. So I want to know more about what makes his clock tick.
Well, I am looking forward to hearing about ticking clocks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So today, let's get started on part 2 of our reviews in twos. So since this is spoiler heavy, we are just going to say
spoilers!
Huge spoilers for Color Times Malice. The entire plot, all the characters, all the roots, all the things. So if you haven't played this game, go play it now and stop listening. But if you have played this game, come, join us for the ride and listen to what we think about all the twists and turns.
And what a ride it is.
What a ride it is.
So, the way we're going to go about this is we're going to be going through LI by LI again, but we're also going to be talking about Ichika's younger brother Kazuki's reactions to each one of the LIs, because he has a very different reaction to each LI.
Yes. The reason why we're doing this is because Kazuki is such an integral part of the game, and I love him as a side character, as being her younger brother, and I think what her brother thinks of her boyfriend is really important.
Yeah, it's true. It is really important. I mean, what you think of the people who I date is really important.
Yes, I agree. Same here. I mean, familial relationships, you gotta approve.
Yes, you have to approve. So, does he approve? We'll find out.
So, we'll go back and start again with Mineo Enomoto. I said in our last episode that his wasn't very deep, and I maintain that, but you do get to learn a lot about why he left the police force.
Yeah, and I mean, he does have really good reasons for leaving the police force. I mean, when he was a rookie cop, he had a superior that he really looked up to.
He idolized this guy. He really looked up to him. And it was really, really sad, because when you find out that the superior is actually a dirty cop, it's so upsetting for Mineo. His life is turned upside down because he doesn't realize that's the person that he looked up to.
Yeah, and he also feels really guilty. He thinks it's his fault because he started falsely arresting people to try to move up in the ranks, since Enomoto was moving up faster than he was. And so Enomoto does blame himself for this. But the fact that his superior was a dirty cop is the reason why Adonis ended up killing him. So Adonis...
Not Mineo, the superior.
Yes, Adonis killed the superior, and that is why Mineo ended up leaving the police force.
Yeah, this was a really important part in Ichika and Mineo's relationship as well, because she basically helped him come to terms with the fact that it wasn't his fault and things weren't under his control.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting.
So how does Kazuki react to Enomoto? Because the first time they met was really interesting.
Yeah, I really do like that scene. The first time Kazuki meets Mineo is after a night where Ichika and Mineo spend it together, because Mineo has passed out drunk on top of Ichika. She brings him back to the detective's office and, basically puts him to sleep. And he basically just grabs a hold of her and cuddles her to death. And then when she gets home the next day, he shows up at her door. Does he bring flowers? I can't even remember if he brought flowers.
I don't think so.
He walks in and he basically proposes to her because he thought that they slept together and he was going to do the right thing by her by becoming her husband.
And guess who was there to witness all of this?
Yes, her little brother. Can you imagine the hilarity? Poor Ichika. She was like, we didn't sleep together, just so you know.
Yeah, but Kazuki is basically like, this dude is very annoying and I want him to leave.
Yeah, Kazuki was not impressed with Enomoto.
No, Kazuki
and that's maintained in the other routes too. Kazuki is, I think he's like on Takeru's side. He's very annoyed by Enomoto and his loud obnoxiousness.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say he thinks Mineo is a great match for Ichika.
Yeah, neither would I.
So let's talk about the next ally. We can talk about Takeru.
Sasazuka Takeru. Mm-hmm. Oh, his backstory is really sad.
I know, it is really sad.
Yeah.
So he is actually from Japan, but lived in the US for 12 years with his mom before he came back to Shinjuku. And the reason that he came back was because his mom was actually murdered by a random shooter in the US. And he developed, like, hatred to guns and firearms. So he's super traumatized by that happening to his mom, and he goes back to Japan thinking like, okay, well, you know, there are no guns in Japan, so we'll be fine. And then everything happens with Adonis, and the government just hands out guns to random civilians. And Takeru is not happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, the situation basically goes from no guns anywhere in Shinjuku to literally every single person over the age of 18 has a gun.
Yeah. So the whole thing about his story is he really wants to repeal that law where everyone is allowed to have guns. So kind of bringing Shinjuku back to its like former place of safety. And that's kind of his driving factor behind investing the Adonis cases. And he does this through hacking, which I think is really cool. One part of his story is that he has to connect with Kazuki's friend Akito. And they find out throughout the course of the story that Akito is actually working with Adonis. And so what they need to do is basically investigate his friend without Kazuki knowing, because Ichika, of course, doesn't want her brother involved.
Yeah.
So the first time that Kazuki and Takeru meet is at basically like a hot pot dinner.
Oh my gosh.
Takeru shows up at her house and he's like, hey, nice to meet you. I'm her boyfriend. And she's like, wait a minute. No, you're not. But her brother is like, what is going on?
Yeah, let's just say they did not get along. Takeru basically tells Kazuki that he is in charge now and that Kazuki just needs to suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. Kazuki's reaction to him, I think, was pretty funny, but over time, like, especially in the other routes, you kind of get the sense that Kazuki's, like, okay with him.
Yeah.
Like, he's not bothered by him. He just thinks he's kind of
douchey.
Cocky. Yeah.
Well, he is kind of cocky, and especially after he and Ichika actually get together, he does get really cocky. Like, he tells her, like, oh yeah, like, you're my girl.
I mean, I like that about him.
I know you do. Grumpy, cocky, all your favorite stuff.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, not so cocky, but I am impressed with him, with his hacking skills.
He does have good hacking skills. In fact, his hacking skills are so good that the police force basically tries to bribe him to come back.
Oh, that's right.
A couple of times throughout the game.
And not only in his route, too.
No, it's in other routes, too. And Sasazuka's basically like, no, fuck you.
Yeah. Now, in his route, he does join the cyber crimes unit again. And that's under Minegishi, right?
Yeah.
And he helps them, like, make connection with Adonis and be able to face them front on through his hacking skills. So that was really cool. So you get to see a little bit of character growth there. So that's Takeru. What do you think about Okazaki-kei?
Okazaki, oh my goodness. So what you see of him in other routes is very... It's really, really surface level of what you get in his route. Because his whole thing is that... when Adonis kind of started becoming a thing and the government started realizing that there was this terrorist organization working in Japan, someone tried to assassinate the prime minister. And Okazaki was there. He was one of the people who was protecting the prime minister at the time. And when the attack happens, even the prime minister didn't get assassinated, but they were not able to prevent the attack.
And so bombs went off, people died. And what ended up happening is one of the people on his team actually died.
Yeah, one of his coworkers ended up dying, saving Okazaki's life. And so Okazaki takes that really, really hard, and his whole thing is that he now wants to die.
Yeah. But he wants to die by protecting someone.
Yeah.
Basically, like, paying it forward. Like, he didn't deserve to live, so he needs to save someone who deserves to live and then die for it.
Yeah, and he decides that Ichika is this person who deserves to live. And they get pretty close before Ichika realizes that that's what he's trying to do. Like, he's actively trying to die while protecting her. And she gets real mad when she finds out.
Yeah. There are some really crazy scenes of him putting himself in the face of danger for Ichika.
Yeah. And then in the bad ends, he actually dies saving her. So guess he got what he wanted. But I think my favorite thing about him is he finally gets to the point where Ichika, like, sits him down and basically yells at him and is like, this is not the way. Yeah. This is not how you should be doing things, especially if you care about me. How do you think I would feel after you die? And it kind of clicks with him. And it turns into this whole thing where he's like, okay, so now neither of us are going to die, and we're just going to go and defeat Adonis and live happily ever after.
But he's still going to protect her.
Yes, he's still going to protect her. It's just that he's not going to die doing so.
But yeah, you don't expect that from him from the rest of the Roots. Like, he seems a little bit, like, ditzy and in his own world and kind of an airhead. But when you actually play through his route, you get to learn a lot about his inner feelings and emotions and his reasons for doing things.
Yeah, and the other thing you get to find out about him is that he's a little bit of a yandere.
Yeah, he is a little bit of a yandere.
Yeah.
He becomes very obsessive over Ichika and wants to make sure that she is, like, in his sight at all times. Yeah. Everywhere she is, he needs to be.
And he also wants to make sure that everyone else knows that she is his.
That's right. Even people who aren't actually there.
Yeah, there is a scene where Ichika still has the collar on, and Okazaki decides to, make his mark and show the people in Adonis that she belongs to him by having sex with her while they are listening.
Yes, it was real weird, but it was a sexy scene.
It was a sexy scene, but once you realize that the collar is still on and the person on the other end is listening to the whole thing, it becomes a little less sexy.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Well, at least Kazuki didn't walk in on that.
Oh my goodness, yes. No, Kazuki did not walk in on that. However, Kazuki does meet Okazaki a couple of times because Okazaki is basically just, like, semi-stalking Ichika, and Kazuki just thinks that Okazaki's kind of weird.
Yeah, he's everywhere and he doesn't know why, but his sister tells him, like, he needs to be there for our protection, for your protection. A lot of times she asks Okazaki to look after her brother in other people's roots, and he does because he really trusts in Ichika and he believes in her. He wants to protect her. So Okazaki and Kazuki end up interacting a lot, and what usually happens is Okazaki just basically drags Kazuki around, and Kazuki's like, I don't want to be here, I hate this guy's super annoying.
Yeah. So not the biggest fan of Okazaki. Not the biggest fan. I like Okazaki. I still liked his route.
Yes. Yeah. I still liked his route too. When I found out that he had, like, nothing in his house, she goes to his apartment and he has, like, no blades. He has no food. He barely has furniture. Things are in boxes. He just sleeps on the floor with a mask and a pillow. Like this guy's he's something else.
Yeah, well, also technology is not his friend.
Technology is not his friend, no. It really isn't.
Yeah. So that is Okazaki. Well, now we get into the real big spoilers, because Shiraishi Kageyuki.
Yeah, and this is one of the characters that you can't do until you unlock another guy's route first. So you have to play through some routes before you get to him.
Yeah.
Because there's some big plot points in Shiraishi's route.
You mean like the fact that he's part of Adonis?
Like the fact that he's part of Adonis.
And he was raised by them, and and his name isn't actually Shiraishi Kageyuki.
Yeah, you don't even find out what his name is. They just call him number 14.
Yeah, I don't think he has a name.
So sad. But you see flashbacks of him as a child and them talking about the plan and, you know...
Yeah. So basically his entire personality, his entire, story that he tells people, it's all a lie.
Mm-hmm. It's planned out. It's built up. He was a really interesting character because at face value, he's kind of douchey and he doesn't know how to deal with emotions because he has no emotions. But the thing with Ichika is once they start interacting more, she waters his feelings plant. I don't know how to describe it.
No, I like that. She waters his feelings plant. He starts to feel things and he doesn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's this one scene where she's in his apartment and I think he calls her a doll or something. And she gets back at him and she's like, I'm not the doll, you are. Because he has no feelings. He has no emotions. He can only think in one unilateral direction. Mm-hmm. And that really digs in on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he starts to kind of critically think about that, which I found to be really, really interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said in the last episode, I really like the way that Ichika deals with him, the way that she reacts to him, because once it's revealed that he's part of Adonis and everything was a lie, Ichika basically sits him down and is like, okay, you're part of Adonis. Okay, you say everything was a lie, but I guarantee you not everything was a lie. Mm-hmm. You do have emotions. I have seen them, and you need to learn how to deal with your shit.
Yep. Yeah, she really kicks him in the butt. Mm-hmm. And another thing is she believes in him, too. Mm-hmm. He doesn't get that from anyone. I guess he and Yanagi have a friendship.
It's a weird
pseudo-friendship.
But
Ichika really does believe in him, and he connects with her.
And, it's something that was interesting about this particular route is all of the other allies interact with Kazuki quite a bit. Shiraishi doesn't.
No, she always goes to his house.
Yeah, I don't think he ever goes to her house. It's always her going to his.
Yeah, we didn't go back and look through specific scenes, but if they did meet, it didn't...
stand out.
Yeah, if they did meet, it didn't stand out to us at all.
Yeah. But that makes it all the weirder because in his endings, what ends up happening is Ichika, gets amnesia and... Shiraishi ends up, taking care of her in a locked room, pretending to be her doctor for a year, and Kazuki is miraculously okay with this.
Yeah, Shiraishi brings her to a Christmas party, and Kazuki is there with Okazaki, of course, because Okazaki is, leading him around, and, he's fine with it. He's like, oh, yeah, you were away, and, it was fine.
Look, it's my
amnesiac sister who's been gone for a year. Oh, well. It was very odd.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that reaction because he didn't really know Shiraishi or, know that he could trust him. And honestly, even by that point, I still wouldn't trust him because he's a strange man.
But at least he likes cats.
He does like cats.
And that's one thing that kind of made me realize, okay, he does have feelings. Deep in there somewhere, he's got some feelings.
Because he likes cats.
And there's this interaction with him and Ichika where he gives her a keychain, a cat keychain. They have a cute little couples keychain. This is before they're dating or anything. And to him, he's like, okay, this is an experiment. I know that girls like when they get gifts, so I'm gonna give her a gift so she'll like me more and trust me more. And it's it's planned out to him. And then kind of at the end, he realizes this is a special thing to me. It really means something. And it's not because he's being manipulative or trying to get something from Ichika. And it's just natural that he has feelings for her. And I really like that.
Yeah. Character development.
Yay, character development.
Speaking of character development.
Yeah. We can talk about IG.
Yeah.
Yanagi
IG, a lot of character development. So his route is definitely the most story intensive out of all of them. Also a big difference is that he actually has history with Ichika. Because his whole thing, the reason why he left the police department is because he realized that he wanted to protect everyone.
Yeah.
He wanted to protect not only, the citizens, but also the criminals. He didn't see any reason for someone's life to be thrown away. He didn't want to have to hurt someone to save someone else. And he realized that he wouldn't be able to do that if he was in the police force. So he quit. But the reason why he thinks this way is because when he was young, he was a delinquent who just did delinquenty things.
Yes.
He describes himself as, like, having, like, the baseball bat and the piercings.
Yeah.
And that's a fun interaction with Ichika when he tells her about that, because he's a very straight-laced man.
Yeah.
But it turns out that they met when they were young, because when Ichika was in elementary school, she and her family went on a trip to Tokyo, because she's not originally from Tokyo, and she was kidnapped.
Yep. And it turns out that Yanagi saw the man kidnapping her, and he followed her in order to basically try to intervene and save her.
Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is he did end up saving her, but he also ended up beating the man who kidnapped her in front of Ichika.
Yeah.
And she was traumatized by the entire experience, understandably, but he felt like he was the reason why she was traumatized.
There was a point where he basically kind of beats this guy to near death, and he can't do anything anymore because Yanagi's worried that he's gonna hurt Ichika. He goes up to Ichika and he's like, hey, like, it's okay, the bad man's not, like, he's not gonna do anything to you. And she has just an expression of fear in her eyes, and he's like, are you scared of me? And she's like, yeah. Yes, I am. And he's like, that carries with him for a long, long time.
Yeah. And he realizes pretty early on that Ichika was that little girl. Ichika, however, because she was young and because the entire experience was so traumatic, she's basically blocked most of the details out. She knows that something traumatic happened to her, and she knows that she occasionally has vague nightmares about it, but she doesn't really know anything other than that.
Yeah.
So there's this whole kind of progression to her remembering what happened and realizing that it was Yanagi who saved her.
Yeah.
And then they have to go through this whole back and forth about her telling him, like, no, you are not the reason why I was traumatized. You basically saved my life.
It took a lot of time for him to get to a point where he could understand that. Not even from her perspective, but, like, understand it himself.
Because he did beat a man half to death, and the man stayed in a coma.
Yeah, he had been in the hospital basically since that happened.
Yeah.
And Yanagi, he carried that with him. It was, I don't know, he's a deep character.
He is. But he's a really good person. And I think his reaction to that whole scenario really shows how good of a person he is.
Yeah.
He does. He wants to save everyone. He wants everyone to be happy and to be safe, and that's why he's not a police officer anymore.
You can also see that in his interactions with other people, too, not just Ichika. Like, his friendship with Shiraishi, he knows, like, he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
But he trusts him, and he believes in him because he's his friend. Like, he wants to believe the best in people.
Yeah. And I remember in Yanagi's route, so other than Shiraishi's route, Yanagi's route is the only one where you find out that Shiraishi is a part of Adonis. And when Shiraishi tells Yanagi he's part of Adonis, he tries to get Yanagi to come to the conclusion himself, and you can see that Yanagi has already come to the conclusion that Shiraishi has betrayed him, but he doesn't want to believe it because Shiraishi is his friend.
Yeah. Oh, Yanagi.
He's a good person.
Such a good guy.
Yeah.
Such a great character.
In fact, he's such a good person that when Kazuki finds out that Yanagi and Ichika are dating, his reaction is basically like, yeah, my sister's not going to be able to do any better than this guy.
He approves.
He approves.
Yeah, I really like that. So that's how you know that this is the main guy.
Because
her brother actually approves of this one.
Approves.
Yeah, no, he's a good character. There were some definitely at least twists and turns for him because I did not expect that whole backstory and the relationship between him and Ichika to come to light. Like, I didn't realize that they had such an in-depth history and that there was a reason for him being by her or around her or protecting her or whatever. So that was really a surprise to me when I was doing his route. It was really interesting.
They did that really well.
Yeah, they did a really, really good job of it.
You know what else they did really well?
I don't know if they did this really well, but it was a big surprise, and it was a twisty-turny wild ride, was finding out that Saeki Yuzuru is actually the head of Adonis.
Yeah.
He's Zero.
And, I mean, you don't find out until, like, halfway through Yanagi's route. So it's the very end of the game when you officially find this out. You can guess earlier if you pay attention. I think we figured it out in Okazaki's route. We were like, okay, it has to be someone who we know, and...
It has to be someone in the police force.
It has to be someone who knows Ichika.
Who knows Ichika very well in order for her to be labeled as a sympathizer.
Yeah, and Saeki was basically the only character that made sense, and the more you thought about it and the further you got in the game, the more sense it made.
Because you learn a lot about the side characters. Like, you learn about their interests and their families and their lifestyles. But Saeki was always kind of an enigma. Like, her interactions with him were basically like, hey, do you want to have a drink? Hey, let's talk about justice. And you're like, this is kind of strange. What an interesting setup for a side character.
Yeah. But I really like the way that they did it. And it's really interesting because it becomes quite obvious towards the end that his reasons for basically wanting Ichika to join him are not just because he thinks that she would be a good fit for Adonis. It's pretty obvious that he's infatuated with her as well.
He's legitimately obsessed with Ichika.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the point where even his, like, co-conspirators realize something's wrong with him because they are not all striving for the same mission at some point.
Yeah. And I mean, a big reason why... the police force and Ichika and the guys from the detective agency are able to bring down Adonis is because that rift happens between Zero and the other Adonis members. I honestly don't think that if that rift didn't happen, I don't think they would have been able to do it.
Yeah.
It was a really, really tight ship originally.
Yeah, Zero really went AWOL, and he did some really bizarre things that weren't in line with the Adonis's ideals.
Yeah,
and him doing that led Ichika to him pretty well.
Yeah.
Sad though, because I really like when I first saw Saeki, I was like, oh my god, I want to date him. He's so cute.
Yeah.
He's a cute character.
If you listen to our episode about side characters that we wanted to date that we did a couple of weeks ago, if we had done that episode before we had finished Color Times Malice, Saeki would have been front and center.
Oh, yeah. Because he's so hot. Like, he's he's my type.
Yeah.
Blonde, tall. He has a cute little mole in his face.
Yeah.
Sweet personality, quote unquote, until you really find out who he is.
Until you find out that he's the leader of a terrorist organization.
Yeah, I don't know. I like his character design. Yeah, that was Zero for you. It was unexpected to a certain point, but once we figured it out, it really did make sense. Because you don't really know anything about him.
No, you don't. And that's why Ichika was able to figure it out. Because she realized that he was someone who was close to her, who could be doing all of the things that Zero was doing, but she also honestly didn't know anything about him, even though she had known him for years. Yeah.
They went to a police academy together. They were friends. They went out drinking all the time. And yet, somehow... she just
knew nothing about
his life.
So there are a lot of really interesting characters in this game. And we actually had a question for all of you, our lovely listeners. We would like to play a game of Bone, Marry, Yeet off a cliff.
That's right. Who do you want to bone? Who do you want to marry? And who would you gladly yeet off a cliff?
Yeah. So the characters that we are asking about are... Yanagi, Okazaki, and Shiraishi. And I will be making a Twitter post after this episode comes out, so please go to our Twitter page and comment on the Twitter post who you would like to bone, marry, and yeet off a cliff. We will also be telling you who we would like to bone, marry, and yeet off a cliff under that Twitter post.
That's right. Please let us know who are your choices. Like, what is your opinion? I genuinely want to know.
Yes, me too.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to our second and final episode of the review for Caller Times Malice. Reviews and Twos.
Reviews and Twos.
If you like what you hear and would love to support us, we have a Buy Me a Coffee account where you can donate to us and keep the podcast going. Today, we wanted to send a big thank you to Happy Finch Studio for being our supporter, and we really, really appreciate you.
We also have a Twitter and an Instagram where you can follow us and get updates on the podcast and also see some cool Otome-related stuff. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye!